Hey everybody, Danny here at WFA, coming to you live and in person with Rick, our Chief Investment Officer. It's Tuesday morning. Rick flew in yesterday to be with us last night, and then today he's flying back out. And since I had you here, I know you've sent some market commentary out yesterday and a couple last week. A lot of uncertainty out there. We're getting a lot of calls from clients, and our response is, hey, it's okay to be nervous. It's uncertain. There's a lot of things going on out there. And so since I had you here, I just want to ask you a couple of questions around if I'm a new investor or if I'm a nervous investor, right? So we have both. We have new and we have nervous. What would you tell me during times like this? Like, am I okay to be nervous as long as I don't make the wrong decision? How would you answer that question?
Well, so I think the first thing to understand is yes, it's okay to be nervous. It's natural, I think, when we get in a market environment like this to have a nervous response. So let's just acknowledge that that's okay, right? Like, you shouldn't feel bad about that. But the second thing that we need to acknowledge is that markets like this aren't really all that uncommon, right? So if you think about peak to trough drop in any given year, 5% events happen all the time. 10% events happen typically once a year, actually a little more frequently than once a year. 15% plus events happen basically every other year. And 20+% events happen, once every 3 years on average. And so, this type of market, peak to trough, the S&P 500 was down about 17%. I know that sounds super scary, but on average it should happen once every 2 years. And humans have this thing called recency bias. We like to believe that, whatever we just experienced is what we're going to experience in the future. And 23 and 24 were both very low volatility years. And so when we get into 25 and get this type of event, it feels like, oh my gosh, this has never happened before. And the reality is it has happened before. It actually happens way more frequently than people expect. And, that means that when we build portfolios, we actually design them to hopefully account for these types of markets. And so it is one of these things where, I know it seems scary. The media is going to try and make it more scary than it is because they want you to tune in and watch it. And you just have to take a little bit of a step back and once again, just trust a little bit in the process, trust a little bit in the design, trust a little bit in the system. That, it's not like we anticipated. I will tell you this. I didn't anticipate this specific event, but we do anticipate that events like this one will happen, which is an important distinction to make.
Yeah, so you talked about building portfolios, and I try to remind clients, like, we've been on a track the last 6, 7, 8, 10 years, I guess now, on building the Bluemont system, right? Like the machine and the portfolios, and we talk about diversification and low cost and tax loss harvesting and making sure that the income's coming out of the right place, like all the things that we've done for the past decade are built for times like this. It's not built for the 2021s and 3s and 4s of the world where the market's just up 25%. Anybody can do that.
Yep.
What we want to make sure to focus on is when you watch the TV or when a client watches the news and it says the stock market's down 20%, that doesn't mean, at least in our case, for our clients, that they're down 20% because most people have stocks and bonds mixed together and international and large cap and small cap and value and all that jargon, right?
Yep.
But it works together. And so years like this, we're trying to tell clients like, hey, we have built this thing for this and we're going to get through it. And at the bottom, we're going to rebalance and do all these types of things. So go ahead.
The other thing that I will just say there is that when you watch the news, they do have a really nice habit of, like, they'll show you NVIDIA and be like, oh, it's down 20%. Or they'll show you Tesla and be like, oh, it's down 30%. And they're picking those stocks because those are the ones that are down the most, right? Like, they're not talking about, Procter & Gamble, right? Or Coca-Cola or any of these other stocks that are down, but not down that much, right? Like, and so there is a little bit, once again, of, the headlines that you see on TV are deliberately designed to try and scare you.
I was talking to Rashad yesterday about sports, and he used to say in the news, now he was a sports reporter in the news station for 10 years, and they're saying, which is why he quit, was if it bleeds, it leads. If it wasn't a bad story, they didn't want it, and it's the same thing in the markets and things
That's
like
really
that.
funny.
So, second question, and then I'll get to one more, and then we'll be done. So, tariffs in general, right? The economy, regardless of like politics or no politics or good, bad, like where do you see all this heading? Is it really a negotiation? Is it a hope for the Trump administration for just it to be a free trade where all tariffs just go away? Are we really going to implement them? Like, how much does it affect us? Just broad statement.
Yep.
Tariffs.
So,
explain them to me. Tell me what
tariffs. Explain them to you probably beyond the scope of the time that we have, right? What I'll say is, I think that the administration probably has a mix of different goals, and that there's a mix of goals that will wind up playing out, right? So, if you take a country like China, it seems pretty clear that that is going to result in a trade war between the two countries, where in reality, a trade war basically means that trade between the two countries just sort of stops, right? And we're probably okay with that. You know, the Chinese are not in a position politically with their own populace to be like, oh, well, the United States got mad at us, so we decided that we would be, nice to them because we don't want the United States to be mad, right? Like, that is not a message that's going to play well politically in China. So they're going to stand up and retaliate and do all these other things. Some of our other trading partners, whether it's countries in Asia, some of the smaller countries in Asia, whether it's some of our European trading partners, Canada, Mexico, these are countries that are much more likely to engage in negotiations, right? To say like, okay, what can we do to try and rectify the trade deficit? What can we do to try and, correct some of these things that are out there in the marketplace? And in these cases, it feels much more likely that, that will wind up in a negotiation. And the question there is like, how much of a concession is the government willing or not willing to accept in order to sort of reduce these barriers? And we'll just have to see, right? Like, that's one where I don't think we really know. Certainly some of the earlier partners that are out there in there negotiating, like Israel was in negotiating. We don't know what their trade deals are going to look like. I can tell you that I think that the government will reach a deal with them to try and lower barriers and increase trade. But if you think about the game theory of all of it, you don't want to give a sweetheart deal to the first country that shows up, because then everybody else knows that you're going to give a sweetheart deal. So, there's a lot of negotiation to play out there. And I think the ultimate resolution of this will be a mix between straight up trade war and just negotiations across the board.
So wait and see and just monitor. So the last question, you got
probably not as bad as everybody expects it to be, based on the initial reaction of, oh my goodness, this is the largest tax increase ever, etc. Probably not as bad as that, but we will just have to see.
So last question before we close. We get a lot of messages or emails or phone calls from clients saying, what are we going to do? Like, and what are y'all doing? Or should we do something? Or what do we do? And our response is like, we're not going to do anything major. We built this, like I said earlier, to withstand this. So we are going to rebalance, and we're going to do some things within the portfolio. We're always making sure that what we thought last week was a good place to be is still a good place to be. As fiduciaries, we have to wake up every day and go, yeah, this is what I would put in here today.
Yep.
And so we're constantly doing that. But the notion of just doing something right now because of today, we stay away from. That's where you get hurt. So my question to you is, can you give me maybe like one or two things that we've done in the last 4 to 6 months to a year to sort of build it to be prepared for this? Like, what did we do?
Yeah, I mean, great analogy. And once again, I come back to those, you expect this to happen every other year or every year or whatever it is. And so I always use the analogy of like, we've built a house that's in a floodplain, right? Like, we know this. And if you've built a house that's in a floodplain, you want to prepare for the floods before it starts raining, right? Like, you know, we want to build the portfolio to be aware and be prepared for this. So, you know, some of the things that we've done recently, we increased a little bit of duration in our fixed income portfolios. That actually makes bonds act more as a cushion against equity sell-offs than otherwise. We transferred a little bit of holdings from domestic to international. Now, international stocks impacted by tariffs just as well as domestic, but a little bit of kind of not eggs in one basket. If there are particular countries out there that wind up being the winners, if you will, of this trade negotiation, we want to make sure that we have, you know, diversified exposure there. And then, you know, we're always looking at things that we can do within the portfolio whenever these types of events happen, such as, you know, okay, is it appropriate now to rebalance? Is it appropriate now to do some tax loss harvesting for client accounts? You know, where can we potentially add value given the price that the market has given us? And we're always looking and considering those opportunities, and, you know, depending on where the sell-off goes and whatnot, we may execute on them. But, you know, we do have a playbook for the way that these types of events play out. It's the same playbook that we followed during COVID and the same playbook that we followed during, you know, 2022. And, you know, it's a very well thought out, you know, okay, this is how I should respond when markets get really choppy.
Yeah, so another way I say it is like, we don't know what's going to happen, but either way it goes, we know what we're going to do when it happens. Right?
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
exactly right.
This is what we're going to do. If it goes down, this is what we're going to do. You use the floodplain, house in a floodplain. We always use the build a boats, like you're on a dock. You know, we built the ship. The ship is built. The ship is solid. Not that it can't sink, right? Like, we don't know. But there's a probability that the whole U.S. economy and the world's not sinking, right? It might get choppy, and it is. We're in the waves. Our job as advisors, and as we always call, it's like, you know, guides. Think of like going on a tour, on a vacation, right? You could do it by yourself. You could navigate. It's cheap. You don't have to pay for anything. You sort of go out there. You carry your own bag. You find your own trail. You worry about what animals and spiders and like. You can do it on your own. As your guide, we've sort of paved the trail. Like, we've been on this hike before. We know where the steps are. We know how to get up the mountain. We know what animals, we know what to look like. We're guiding our clients through that. And so it's the same way as, like I said, building the boat. We built the boat, you're on the ship. Our job is to now navigate through the storm, watch the weather, watch the maps, make sure people on board aren't nauseous or seasick, or do they need some medicine, or should they even be on the boat, right? And so that's really my biggest takeaway. And I know Chase and Steve and Tom and Rashad and Brandon, everybody in the office is the same thing. It's like, hey, we're not going to do anything to jeopardize your goals moving forward. We've already done it. And so now it's just about making sure that the small daily decisions are the ones that make the journey a little bit smoother or faster or whatever it might be. So with that being said, I don't want to take up any more of your time. Thank you for being here. Thanks for all you do. Thank you to our clients. Please don't hesitate to reach out. We're trying to get as much commentary out there that's unbiased. We don't have any agenda behind what we're doing. It's simply to just notify you, and that's mainly done through your videos, our emails and newsletters and things like that. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Once again, just thank you so much for being here. I mean, it's not every chief investment officer is just going to fly down and meet with us to film some videos and just really reassure us that the process has been built. So from us to you, so thank you for that.
We appreciate you. Thank you very much, and thank you guys.